What is up, YouTube? Today we got a fun one coming to you, or maybe a messy one. Either way, do an update to the spoiler, hopefully get it a little bit closer. MR2 Spyder roof spoiler. It'll be a number 2 video, or possibly the 3rd video, MR2 Spyder spoiler series. Alright, so we went and got some supplies, some of which I'm duplicating because I already had them. But what we're going to do is I'm going to coat the whole thing here in Bondo so that I can make it smooth and the correct shape. And once we got it smooth and look in the correct shape, then we'll wrap it in fiberglass to give it some extra structure. And once we have the structure, then we can start looking at doing some gel coat, some of the tooling coat, such that we can make a mold off of this. And once we have a mold, then we can start making some actual parts. But the goal for me today is to have this thing smooth and solid and able to sit on the back of this car and look like it's one piece and not just some random foam and cardboard. So let's get after it. We can get this thing shaped up in a reasonably quick fashion and start seeing some progress with it. Alright, I believe I know how to mix this already, but this is a different brand, so let's give it a quick read. Alright. No new directions on it, so we're just going to go after it. Smells like Bondo. Now, a trick you can do with Bondo, I'm not going to do it here because I don't think I need it, but you can add paint thinner and get a little bit more life out of, a little bit more time to work. Again, I don't think we're going to need it, but if we desperately do, we can always get some out and thin it out a little bit, which will again net us a longer working time for the Bondo. So it's really important when you do Bondo that you make sure you got enough hardener in it, because the last thing you want is to mix Bondo up, start either making a part or fixing whatever you're trying to fix, and you get Bondo smeared all over a surface, and then it just doesn't really set up ever. That sucks, and I've been there. So learn from my past oopsies and don't do that. So you want to have like a nice pink pasty color like this. This I think looks pretty good. So we're just literally going to start slathering it on. And the first goal will be to try and fill the voids in the surface. These first couple coats are more just going to be to seal the surface, and then we can start shaping it as we get a little more on there. And that's going to be a lot of sanding. It doesn't need to be good or pretty or anything at this phase. We're just trying to fill it up, coat it good. And this will also, you know, at this point, this will also fill any of the really big voids in the surface, which will get us to a position where it'll be a lot easier to work with. I tried to buy the smaller one because Bondo does go bad if you don't use it quick enough. And my old tub of Bondo that I went to get into, that had probably been sitting on my shelf for 5 years, was so bad that it was not even usable anymore. So I felt like, oh, I'll just get a smaller one. This is going to be plenty. And then I don't waste a bunch. But here I am, feeling like I might have gotten one that was too small already. So hopefully I got enough here that I can finish this whole outside of this thing. And I'm mixing this a little heavy on the hardener, kind of to try and expedite the process, but also because I don't want to end up with any soft Bondo. It really doesn't need to be this pink, is kind of the point. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and let those first couple layers dry. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to sand it pretty aggressively for a second. Smooth it out a little bit. For sure break through to foam in a couple spots again. Then I want to Bondo the whole outside. So now you can start to see a very rough, but the shape, and you can see that now it holds its own shape. So we're gonna get this thing to cure out. All right, I didn't want to get Bondo all over my clothes, so these are kind of throwaway, but let's check it out, see where it's at. Hey, it's nice and strong now. It looks like we've kind of worked up the shape a little bit. Put some cracks in it. Bring it back down the shape it's supposed to be. It's not quite dry yet, but I think it's probably dry enough to sand. Let's turn the fan off. Move my Bondo mixing mess and tools. Start going to town on the top. When you do this, you should definitely have a mask on. But being as masks are kind of hard to come by these days, I think I'm going to save my masks for going out in public. So right now I'm just trying to knock down any really high spots. A block sometimes is easier, but this block is not very aggressive paper. So what I might do, wrap it in a more aggressive paper. So I've taken saran wrap and I am gonna cover his back window here, right in the area where we're gonna be working. And this surface doesn't have to come out perfect. I just need the general shape of the window, and once we have the shape of the window molded into the spoiler, then we can fill in any weird little imperfections caused by, say, like the ripples in the saran wrap. So that stuff's not a big concern to me. But I do want to make sure that we don't have something weird tearing up because we weren't cautious with making sure the car was going to be okay. So just using blue painter's tape here in a couple of spots to kind of hold my saran wrap in place. And normal home saran wrap, again, going with the theme of carbon fiber out of the stuff you got at your house. That's a pretty good surface. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a tiny amount of Bondo. And with that tiny amount of Bondo, I'm going to set it on the saran wrap right in the corner. Just a little tiny amount so that I can make sure that there's no funky reactions between the saran wrap and the Bondo, and it doesn't do something weird with regards to the window of the car. I'm just trying to be proactive to make sure we're not creating any problems for ourselves. I'm going to set this little tiny glob on the saran wrap here. Okay. So here's where the spoiler is looking so far. It's warped up because of the way I had the thing sitting. When you can see from this angle maybe that it's kind of warped like this because of how I had to have it sitting when I do the top layers. But it's no big deal. We're gonna put some cracks in the Bondo to relieve the stress, and then we'll shape the bottom to the car. And once the bottom's shaped to the car, that'll give us the final shape, and then we can fill in whatever little cracks we've created. The camera turned off. You missed a fair amount of action. Basically, hold on. All right, basically what I did, was we took the spoiler, Bondoed up, we'll put it on top of the car, and I did a film of Bondo on the bottom side of the spoiler, and then over top of the saran wrap, we stuck the spoiler down on the window. So now we should have a rough shape of the window imprinted into the back of the spoiler there. And once I pull it off, once it's cured out all the way, I should be able to use the shape that we just created, pushing it against the window here, to finish molding the rest of the spoiler. And then I should be able to wrap the whole thing in one last layer of Bondo, aggressively sand the whole thing. I'm going to do one sheet of fiberglass fabric, not the traditional mat that you would buy at most stores. So the fabric is actually, it's a woven like a carbon fiber instead of shredded chunks of fiber. So here in a sec, once this last Bondo that we put on here is done, I'm going to peel it off and I'll bring you back and we'll take a look at it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and remove the spoiler from the car now, and in doing this I'm going to go ahead and take the shrink wrap or the plastic wrap with it to try and preserve whatever is underneath it, and then we can peel the saran wrap off once it's off the car. Perfect. It came out just as I expected. There's a bunch of texture from the saran wrap. And even, so you can see the texture here. But it's okay because all I need is the general shape. And then once I Bondo over top of this, I'll have the final shape very accurate to the window. So let's see if we can peel this shrink wrap very carefully now without taking all the Bondo. Ah, beautiful. Perfect. So now you can see we've got the correct curvature again. The top is curved down instead of up. And the bottom of our spoiler has the window shape to it. So I'm going to set this aside and let it cure out the rest of the way. And then here in a second, we're going to use the last of the Bondo that I just bought. And I'm going to try and slather this with one last really thick coat to hopefully lock in our shape here. And once the stuff that was sitting on the window is totally cured out, I'll slather another layer across it, and then we can sand it. I kind of need finishing Bondo, so you can get like Bondo that's different colors, so you can see when you're getting into the layer underneath real easily. Something like that might work well here. But all things considered, this is fine the way it is. I just need to finish coating the outside of the spoiler in Bondo, and then I'm going to give the thing one last really, really good sand and get it close back to being cardboard and foam, and then we're going to wrap it in fiberglass. So here's the fiberglass components. So they actually call it cloth, but this one you can see, I don't know if it'll focus in close enough here. There you go. You can see that this is a woven sheet, you know, a piece of fabric basically, versus a lot of the fiberglass you buy is chopped strand fiber, and it's just a bunch of little pieces of fiber that are about, I don't know, some length of fiber, and then they're just kind of like all meshed together and just kind of clothed and clumped together. This, on the other hand, has a little bit more structural rigidity when it's not hardened. So I'll be able to wrap the spoiler in it and then wet out the resin. And I think that's going to work better for me in this case here. Alright, so now that we got the shape back, looking pretty good. Sits on the car pretty well. Alright, so it'll look pretty cool. Now I'm going to go ahead and sand down all the high spots again, and then we're going to be probably pretty close to ready for some fiberglass and fiberglass resin. We'll go ahead and time lapse up sanding this real quick. I think we'll get it sanded down, and that'll be the extent of this video update. And in the next video, we'll go ahead and wrap it in fiberglass and resin, and then we're going to get it to its final shape and get it ready for making a mold off of. So I'm going to go ahead and sand it out real quick, and then we'll show it to you before we close out the video. Alright guys, I think this is where we're going to leave it off tonight. You can see the surface finish is still not very good, but this surface has a pretty good finish, and this is what sits on the window. It's getting there. Still a lot of work to do. A lot more body work, a lot more Bondo and sanding, a lot more dust to be made. But overall, it's starting to take the shape, and it's almost all one color. So once it's one color, that means we're getting close. But anyway guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hopefully in the near future we'll be putting a spoiler on the car.